Hi, everybody. Welcome to today's webinar, Food Safety Audits in the Time of Social Distancing. My name's Amy Wayne. I'm a part of the marketing team here at Perry Johnson Registrars Food Safety, Inc., or PJRFSI. We're really excited to be hosting two guest speakers from PrimusGFS for today's webinar, and I'll be introducing them to y'all later in the presentation. First, before we get started, I wanted to cover a little housekeeping. All attendees on the call are on mute just to ensure clarity. But we do absolutely want to take your questions. So please use the questions tab near the bottom of the GoToWebinar control panel to type in and submit your questions as you think of them. We're going to hold off answering them until the end of the slides, but just feel free to type them right in as they come to mind so you don't forget them. The biggest question we usually get has to do with slide availability or a recording of the presentation. And yes, we'll have both a recording of this webinar and the full slide deck available from PJRFSI.com. You can also find the recording on our YouTube channel. Just search for PJRFSI or Perry Johnson Registrars Food Safety, and our channel should be pretty easy to find. And this screenshot will just show you where to find that question tab. So just type those questions in and we will answer as many as we can at the end of the presentation. So before I introduce our first speaker, I did want to launch a quick polling question. And that's just to get an idea of who's on the call today. Who is certified, who's not certified? Are you wanting to become certified? So go ahead and plug your answer in and we will see where everyone stands before we get started. And as the answers are coming in, it looks like a lot of you are already certified, which is great. We're really glad that you guys are taking that step to ensure your processes and your entire organization is using best practices. Okay, so we've got about 60% responding, so let's go ahead and see where we're at. And that's great. We're really glad to see that most of you are already certified, and that will just help us address what you want to know. So moving right along, I'd like to introduce our first speaker today, and that would be Paul Demarin. He is the Senior Vice President of Food Safety and Supply Chain here at PJRFSI. Paul joined us at PJRFSI in January of this year, but he's already made a huge impact on all of our programs, and we're super glad to have him. Paul has over 35 years of experience in the hospitality, service, and retail agri-food sectors. Before he came to PJRFSI, Paul worked for 15 years in the certification industry, working with clients in everything from food safety and supply chain to brand protection and quality. He worked for many years also in management system certification, and before that he was a professional chef and a consultant for over 20 years, working in hotel chains, restaurants, private golf courses, and food service organizations. So without further ado, I'm going to hand things over to Paul and he can go ahead and take it away.
Great. Thank you very much, Amy, for that wonderful introduction. I appreciate that. Hello, everyone. Thank you very much for attending. I appreciate it, especially given the current landscape that we're in. Before I begin, I just want to say we understand that, of course, we're all in a game-changing environment right now with the pandemic. But everyone here at FSI, we're fully committed to the health and safety and well-being of our staff, our customers, and our communities. We've really seen the effects, all of us, globally with COVID. However, I think we've also had the opportunity to see the best in each other, you know, not only from our clients and our colleagues, but also our families and friends. On behalf of FSI, I just want to say thank you and applaud all of you for doing what you're doing to get us through this unprecedented time, including, you know, all of the doctors and nurses and first responders, and really even everyone on the call here today. You know, I really appreciate that. So as Amy mentioned, my name is Paul. I'm the Senior Vice President for Perry Johnson Food Safety, and I just want to give you a short overview of our company before we get into the main part of the presentation. I've had the pleasure of welcoming our two guest speakers from PrimusGFS, Dr. Dodo Bao and Ana Garcia. They'll be discussing a little bit further about their organization, their current challenges that they're facing as an accreditation body, and what they have in place to deal with the pandemic. So just to jump right in, Perry Johnson Registrars were, as I mentioned, a family of companies, but PJR was founded in 1994 by Perry L. Johnson. And really, we've been at the forefront of international certification and registration from the very beginning. We achieved ANAB accreditation in 1995, and PJR's first venture into the international market was in 1999, with expansion into the Japanese and Brazilian markets. PGLA is our laboratory accreditation business. That was also founded in 1999, and in the early 2000s, we grew further in opening additional international offices in Germany, Spain, Canada, Thailand, Latin America. So during that time, we had also obtained our UCAS accreditation, and in more recent years, we further expanded into the United Kingdom and China. And then in 2005, PG&A was founded, and this is a very large part of our business. It's our healthcare technology company that specializes in transcription, medical coding, telemedicine, and virtual scribing services. And then shortly after that, PJRFSI was born as a result of the demand in the industry for third-party certification to many of the well-known standards that we're talking about here today. We're founded and headquartered in Troy, Michigan. We're truly a global company, however. And as I mentioned, we have global offices around the world that offer a wide range of certification and inspection services, everything from HACCP to GFSI, organic, gluten-free, cannabis and hemp, social responsibility standards, CTPAT for border security, and FDA audits, just again to name a few. So currently, and over the last 8 years, we've really supported organizations in virtually every sector in the industry today. So we work with all types of companies, production, processing, distribution, importers, exporters, farms, you name it. And really, we work with our clients to help protect their brand and ensure compliance. We're very much committed as a company to adding value for our customers through either food safety or quality, environmental. And the entire team here believes that there is a real difference between customer service and customer focus. We welcome the opportunity to talk to you more about that approach at another time. We're recognized as the #1 registrar in the Americas by the IAAR, which is the International Association of Accredited Registrars. We believe, again, there is a big difference between customer focus, and when we focus on our clients, that helps us to uphold a high level of professionalism, technical competence, and integrity throughout the process. So as Perry Johnson himself did over 30 years ago, we apply the principles of quality management, organizational excellence, and collaboration in all of our activities, whether that be office or field-based. We follow rules as set forth by the International Standards Association and organizations, various accreditation bodies, as well as different scheme owners. We currently have about 460 auditors in 60 countries who not only understand those regulations within those countries, but also the language, and equally important, the culture. I'm happy to say that over the last 5 years, we've continually received a 9.5 out of 10 rating with our customers, which we're very proud of. So essentially, the certification industry has been recognized as an essential service. And, you know, if you think about it, probably a lot of people are saying why, but if you look at it, certification is an activity that is based on the results of tests, inspections, and audits, and it helps to give confidence to you and me as the consumer that an organization's products or systems are being thoroughly evaluated against many national and internationally accepted standards. It's certainly not business as usual today with us, far from it actually. There are changes that are happening on a daily basis, but we continue to provide high quality service and maintain safety and our integrity while doing that. At the same time, trying to do our part and protect our customers and reduce the impact of COVID. So in today's market, this is really critical. As I said, the landscape's constantly changing. It's a dynamic place. Trends are shifting. Expectations change in an instant. There are regulations and recalls that are happening, and navigating this landscape can be sometimes challenging. So with that, we divide our services into 4 key areas: auditing and certification to third-party accredited schemes like PrimusGFS, second-party auditing, customer-specific or supply chain programs, as well as training. Now, if you take a look, this is a snapshot of, we have about 30 programs in our food portfolio today. There are many types of audits that are in the industry right now, accredited, unaccredited. Some are client specific, some are retailer mandated, some are government regulated. But we do work with most organizations across the board from farm to fork. Our first party audits that we work with, you can see there on the screen. These are generally customer specific audit programs where the corporate entity or specifier own the audit standard, and usually for reasons such as technical knowledge of the auditors or geography, language requirement. These are all general reasons to, that customers would use us to help minimize costs. And we, generally do the same type of program or application for a second party standard, which is the standards that we as a certification body own. So those would be our good manufacturing practices, a good distribution, cannabis and hemp. I'm actually happy to say as well right now that a few weeks back we received our official accreditation for our cannabis and hemp standards, and we're the first certification body in the world to attain that with ANAB. So special thanks and shout out to Lauren Maloney on that, who will speak in a minute. And then just moving forward here, I'm cautious of time. We currently have about, many standards that we work with as well on the management system side. We conduct accredited audits across, many different schemes: quality, environmental, aerospace, automotive, just to name a few. And if you think about it, a lot of these standards here that are currently in place today, some of them are over 30 or 40 years old, and they're very mature in the systems. The food safety certification world, although 10 years old, is still in its infancy compared to standards that we see here. There's a lot of integration that's been happening for many, many years with these standards. So instead of having one quality program, organizations would have an integrated quality, environmental, and health and safety program. We're starting to see this slowly happen in the food world. We're not there yet, but we do expect that the integration of multiple standards is going to be the norm within a few years. So looking here, and I'm almost finished, is a snapshot of some of the accreditations and recognitions that we have worldwide. We have long-standing relationships with these organizations, scheme owners, accreditation bodies, and really that gives our customers the assurance that the family of companies we operate under, we do so under the rules of the accreditation bodies and scheme owners, which help to regulate us and maintain a high quality in our work. On many occasions, like we're doing today, we partner with these groups to ensure that when we receive the most up-to-date information, we can then pass that along to you, our customers, again, like we're doing here today with PrimusGFS. So as typically a certification body, we come and audit you. The accreditation bodies and scheme owners come and audit us. It's a substantial investment that's made every year by our family of companies, but it's well worth it because it gives our customers confidence that they're partnered with a recognized and respected group like PJRFSI. And finally, the one thing that I didn't speak to here today, just simply because of time, I wanted to give additional time for Dr. Bao and Anna, is our capabilities around virtual and remote auditing. Lauren's going to speak to that a little bit as well. But just so you know, as a company, we've already conducted over 400 virtual audits. And we certainly have to follow the requirements of the accreditation bodies and groups like GFSI, but I know Lauren's going to touch on that a little bit as well. So again, I just want to say thank you very much for your time. We're certainly in a time of great change. This all really happened just a few short months ago, and we're actually still at the beginning of this. If you think about what needs to happen moving forward, everybody needs to start building plans around recovery, which could include pivots to your business models or operations. It could be meaning that you have to change your supplier policies, or maybe even look at offboarding strategies or technologies, or remobilizing your workforce. It's a time of great change right now, but it's also the time for us to start executing and laying out these plans to give confidence to not only your consumers and your customers, but your suppliers and stakeholders. So with that, I want to say thank you again. I'm going to pass it back over to Amy, and I look forward to your questions later. Thank you.
Great, thanks so much, Paul. And we're going to move right on into our second polling question before I introduce our next speaker. And that question is, what are your plans for primary means of food safety verification after the pandemic subsides? Do you have plans on using only on-site audits, or maybe you want to start integrating some of these remote options that have been developed, that have come out since the pandemic began? So go ahead and choose whatever best applies to you and your business. And just a quick reminder that if you have any questions, please go ahead and type them into the questions tab of the control panel on your screen, and we'll answer those questions at the end of the presentation. So we'll give a few more seconds for people to participate in the poll. I know it's early days yet to really know what you're going to do once the pandemic is over, but just what you're thinking of as things are happening. Maybe you've had a good experience with a remote auditing tool or other option. Maybe you need more information on that, and we're happy to help with any of that. So it looks like we've got about 50% participation. And it looks like a lot of people are planning on using both. There's a lot of uncertainty still, though, and that's totally fine. It's totally understandable in this situation. So moving on, I'm going to go ahead and introduce our next speaker, and that would be Lauren Maloney. She is the Food Safety and Supply Chain Accreditation Manager for PJRFSI. She has over 10 years of experience in the field of sustainable agriculture and food production. She's brought her knowledge to this role and manages the SQF, BRC, Global Gap, IFS, gluten-free, and HACCP/GMP program requirements and our accreditations. She's also our in-house trainer for Global Gap and an inspector for fruit and vegetable scopes. In addition to agriculture and food production, Lauren holds an MS in conservation biology, and her diverse background and knowledge are a huge benefit to the food safety program. So let me hand things over to Lauren, and Lauren, you can take it away.
Hi, Amy, can you share your screen again so we can see the presentation?
Good to go.
Awesome, thank you.
Yep.
Thanks for the great introduction. I'm also the ski manager for PrimusGFS, and I just want to talk to you a little bit about what PJRFSI has been doing in light of COVID-19. So we have been taking the necessary steps to mitigate the risks of auditing during the pandemic while keeping our clients' certificate current. We are doing this by completing either cautious on-site audits, the extension of certification, or the use of remote technology when permitted. Depending on the client situation, many of our clients have contacted us indicating that they may have a situation that impacted their ability to host an audit. Due to COVID, this might be because the operations reduced or completely shut down. They have a no visitor policy in place, so an auditor cannot come on site, or that locations are in shelter in place still, and that we do not have a local auditor to perform the audit, or a qualified auditor may not be able to travel to get to the client. So in light of this impacts, there has been some guidelines from GFSI that would affect a PrimusGFS standard certified client. Currently, GFSI is only allowing the certificate to be extended. So we're not going to perform a virtual audit, and we can extend the certificate up to 6 months after we perform a risk assessment. So a risk assessment may include the review of past reports, updated emergency action plans or COVID-19 policies, a most recent self-assessment, relevant food safety plans or updates to them. And we will also include a discussion or conversation with the site in order to perform the risk assessment. If the risk assessment is deemed to be low risk for the extension of the certificate, then we are able to extend for those 6 months. And within that 6 months, we want to come back and do the on-site audit. So for precautions that we're taking for the on-site audit, we're requiring our auditors to follow the basics, like staying home if they are sick, sanitizing everything, the personal effects that they're bringing into the facility, including laptop, hands, mobile devices, etc. We also have been doing training and sharing of information with our auditors and clients. And then we require auditors to self-monitor for any symptoms, to isolate if they have any, or if they've come in contact with anyone that has been affected or presumed to be effective. They may also have to quarantine if they travel to an area that is risky. So you have our commitment that we are doing everything in our power to keep you safe and protect your brand during this time. So PJRFSI is hosting the offsite desk audit for PrimusGFS, and this will be the process, and the information will be discussed later in the presentation. But we are conducting them. This is the offsite module that allow the auditor to review many different types of documentation prior to the on-site audit. And this helps to allow less time spent in the facility and in a conference room looking at paperwork that can be done off-site through the Azzule software. So we are hosting that, and it'll be discussed a little later in the presentation. For non-GFSI options, like a pre-assessment for audit, or a non-GFSI schemes, then we are able to do a virtual audit, and that depends on the ability for the client. If they can host, then we will complete that. So we are following the latest GFSI information. Once and if they allow any sort of additional remote activities and PrimusGFS incorporates them into their procedure, we'll be happy to allow that as well. So yeah, that's all I have for today. I want to thank everyone for listening to my portion.
Great, thanks so much, Lauren. I'm going to go ahead and introduce our primary speakers for the day from PrimusGFS, and I do apologize for any difficulty with the screen sharing. I'm not sure what technical issue was going on there, but I'd love to introduce to you Dr. Dodo Bao and Anna Garcia from PrimusGFS. Dr. Bao obtained her PhD in bioengineering from the University of California, Riverside in 2013. She's been working in the food safety industry for 7 years and is a technical trainer and QA analyst at Azzule Systems. Her previous work experience includes being a residue chemist at Primus Labs and a lecturer at the University of California, Riverside. Her focus at Azzule is to develop and maintain audit schemes, including PrimusGFS, a GFSI benchmarked audit, assist PrimusGFS users, including certification bodies and their clients, and to provide training for internal staff and clients. Anna Garcia is a biochemical food engineer with a specialty in food safety and is currently completing a master's in management of sanitary programs and food safety. She's been working in the food safety industry for the last 5 years, and her experience includes working at Plant Health Labs and as a food safety consultant for a global markets program. She joined Azzule in 2017 as a QA technical coordinator, focusing on the PrimusGFS integrity program, assisting PrimusGFS users, including certification bodies and their clients, and assisting supplier and buyers using the Azzule supply chain program. So without further ado, I'm going to hand things over to Anna and Dr. Bao, and we should be good to go from there.
Okay, hello everyone, this is Ana Garcia. I will be starting with the PrimusGFS portion of this webinar. First, thank you again everyone for joining us, and Perry Johnson's team for having us today. Okay, to start, we will be talking about the different features that make PrimusGFS more than a GFSI audit. Okay, to start, I wanted to present the outline for today's presentation. First, I'm going to be talking about what is PrimusGFS and how is PrimusGFS responding to the COVID-19 challenges. And then Dodo will be presenting what else can PrimusGFS do for you, and PrimusGFS version 4. To begin, we will be starting with the topic PrimusGFS, the fresh produce industry first global smart audit. And on that note, I wanted to start with the Primus Group timeline. Primus Group was founded in 1987. Then in 1986, Primus Labs began offering field auditing among the world's first gap food safety audits. Then in 2018, Primus Labs created a GFSI benchmark audit, and Azzule Systems was also founded in that year. In 2018, Azzule launched the Azzule Audit software. PrimusGFS was developed to meet the needs of the fresh produce industry. Here I have the key points of the PrimusGFS audit. It covers food safety of agricultural plant products. PrimusGFS standards have been benchmarked against the GFSI requirements. And all of the audit information is generated in an electronic format that can be transferred directly to customers in the Azzule platform. Now, here is an overview of the PrimusGFS and the different responsibilities of the scheme. First, we have Azzule, who's also developed the Azzule Auditing software and the supply chain program, and owns and manages the PrimusGFS audit scheme. PrimusGFS works directly with stakeholders and is benchmarked against the Global Food Safety Initiative. It approves certification bodies on the auditing process to conduct audits. Perry Johnson is an approved certification body of PrimusGFS. They work directly with the growers, packing houses, and processors, and PrimusGFS oversees all of these activities. Okay, as we mentioned before, PrimusGFS was developed to meet the needs of the fresh produce industry. To keep the audit updated, we are always evaluating different food safety principles, stakeholder input, GFSI benchmarking requirements, food safety regulations, and analytics, which is the data generated from the PrimusGFS system. And the audit content is influenced by all of these different actors. PrimusGFS is supported and endorsed globally. Just in 2019 alone was endorsed by more than 5,937 organizations with over 19,446 different operations in 22 different countries. So the audit is widely accepted and recognized. To continue, here are 4 more details about the different operations certified under PrimusGFS. This graph shows the different audit types, and on the left, you can see listed the top 3 audit types certified, which are farms, harvest crew, and packing houses. Let me see if I can fix this graph. Okay. Okay, now I want to talk about a bit about the audit structure and how the audit works. The PrimusGFS scheme covers the supply chain from pre and to post-farm gate production. It provides an integrated supply chain approach, and the audit is divided into modules. So first we have module 1, which is the food safety management system. This is applicable for both GAP and GMP options. Then we have module 2, which is the farm module. Module 3, indoor agriculture. Module 4, harvest crew. So these are the GAP types modules. And now we will be moving on into the GMP modules. So first we have again the food safety management system, which is applicable also for GMP. Then we have GMP. This is applicable for all facility types. Then we have Module 6, which is mandatory for all facilities. Module 7, this is a voluntary module for all facilities, and this Module 7 contains language from the FISMA Preventive Control Rule. Now, PrimusGFS webpage offers guidance documents to aid you into scheduling your audits and to obtaining certification. For this, PrimusGFS has created different audit resources that are available for you. Some of these audit resources are the general regulations, the questions and expectations, the checklist, and the interpretation guidelines. So these documents are publicly available on the PrimusGFS website, and many more documents are available here. Okay, so now we will be passing to a different section of this presentation called How is PrimusGFS responding to the COVID-19 challenges? And for this, we have been listening into the industry's needs. We understand auditees have been facing new challenges such as adapting to social distancing measures, minimizing the risk for employees during this pandemic, following travel restrictions, continuing with auditing process to be in compliance with your buyers and demands and regulatory requirements, and complete auditing process in a secure manner. To face up to these challenges, PrimusGFS has developed audit safety measures that will help address the specific needs for social distancing measures. For this, PrimusGFS has made available the following two options. So we have the PrimusGFS temporary policy, the 6-month certificate extensions, and the desk review audit process. In the next slides, I'm going to talk in detail about these two options. So to start, we will be talking about the PrimusGFS temporary extension policy. This is an option available for all certified operations for PrimusGFS. They can all apply for certification. This is available in countries that cannot be visited due to travel restrictions, and the following recommendations need to be determined to see if an extension can be granted to that specific operation. So the CV must fully demonstrate that there is no other possibility but to extend the audit certificate. If an extension is granted, all the decisions and the procedures should be documented, and they should be based on a risk assessment. The continual evaluation by the CV of the certified site's ability to accept an on-site audit should be maintained, and an audit should be undertaken at the earliest opportunity. So now I have here the key points of the PrimusGFS temporary extension policy. First, a certificate extension can last an additional 6 months. The certificate extensions are recognized by GFSI. The approval extension procedure is directly requested and completed with your CV. So if you want to apply for an extension, please contact your certification body before your current expiration date. PrimusGFS has provided the complete temporary guidance for issuing 6-month certificate extensions for all approved CVs. This document is available also on the PrimusGFS website in case you want to review the complete details for these extensions. Now, here is an example of a PrimusGFS certificate. If a temporary extension is issued to your organization, no additional documentation will be created, and your certificate will be updated with the new timelines. This will be displayed in the Grid Matter section over here. Lastly, in regards to the temporary extension, I wanted to mention that once the travel restriction has been lifted, audits should be rescheduled, and CVs should establish a procedure to determine via risk assessment the order in which the rescheduling of the audits should be taking place.
All right, it looks like we've got one more polling question in here for you all to respond to. And that has to do with how your company shares audit results with customers. Maybe you use email, maybe you use a third-party non-specific service such as Dropbox, Google Drive, or another proprietary software. Do you use Azzule? Or maybe there's another supply chain data management software out there that you prefer to use. So go ahead and respond to that question, and we'll get right back to the guest speakers. Just another quick reminder, I don't see many questions coming in, so please, if you have any thoughts, anything that you haven't seen mentioned that you'd like to learn more about regarding PrimusGFS, or maybe questions regarding remote audits during the pandemic, please go ahead and drop those questions into the questions tab, and we are more than happy to answer as many as possible at the end of the presentation. All right, we've got about 50% responding, so I'm going to go ahead and close the poll. And it looks like the majority of you are using email, but it does look like there are some using Azzule, which is great to see. All right, I'm going to hand things back to Anna.
Thank you. Okay, well, now we will be talking about the desk review audit process, but before we go over that option, I wanted to show you the top 10 products in certified audits during the pandemic in April 2020. Here are the products, and the number represents the amount of operations. So, for example, for broccoli, 134 different operations when and conduct an audit. This shows the auditing process have not stopped, and it's an ongoing necessity. The desk review audit process approach allows the auditor to review all applicable documents related to the PrimusGFS program prior to arriving on site. This minimizes the time spent on the organization. So organizations can apply for a full off-site documentation review prior to an on-site audit. CVs approve or reject this application based on the specific risk assessment of that organization. If the application is approved, the organization is able to complete a self-assessment to submit all the required documents with the PrimusGFS first-party audit tool in the PrimusGFS system. And this documentation review will be finalized prior to the on-site audit. Now, this is the first-party audit tool that it's available to complete the self-assessment portion of this process, and this is already available for auditees if needed. Now, here is an overview of the desk review audit process. This audit process includes an off-site documentation review. If needed, the CV or auditor might request to review documentation on-site, and this process is completed with an on-site visual inspection. For this process, the document PrimusGFS documentation and or visual alteration requirements has been created. This document was developed as a guidelines and includes the different documents, the different document types auditors or CVs may request for this process. This might change, but you can definitely use this on a guidance on what to expect. The complete document is available also on the PrimusGFS website, and this was available for every module type. So I just wanted to put this as an example, but this was also created for other modules, not only farm. Okay, now Dodo will continue with the next portion of this webinar.
Thank you, Anna. So thank you, Anna, again for your presentation, and thank you, PJRFSI, for inviting us to host today's webinar together. As Anna talked earlier, PrimusGFS is a GFSI recognized certification program. It provides total produce supply chain coverage from growing operations to minimally processed products. Similar to other GFSI benchmarked audit standards, PrimusGFS is a voluntary certification program for you to select. Then what will make PrimusGFS different from other GFSI standards besides the total coverage of produce supply chain? In this section, I hope I will provide more information of what else PrimusGFS can do for you. So as we introduced earlier, Azzule Systems is the certification program owner of PrimusGFS. We develop and manage PrimusGFS, and we approve certification bodies to perform the audit for the auditees. Perry Johnson is one of our approved CBs. Besides standards management, Azzule is a food safety data management company who provides solutions for companies throughout the food industry. Azzule has 3 locations in US, Chile, and Mexico, offering support in English, Spanish, French, Chinese, and Portuguese. Azzule platform composed of the food safety data entry systems, supply chain program, as well as the destination buyer's food safety site. Data entry system uses Azzule's own audit or lab information management system and other API connections to collect the audit, lab testing results, and other food safety related data. Those data will be saved and managed in the supply chain program. Azzule Supply Chain Program is an online software and network that growers, packers, shippers, brokers, importers, and exporters can use to manage their food safety data and connect to their suppliers and customers. It enables the movement of food safety data up and down the supply chain, facilitating the exchange of products between growers, packers, shippers, and finally buyers of all sizes. The food safety data, again, such as third-party audits, micro-testing results, and others, will be shared with the buyers that are in the end of the supply chain. Here, buyers are either groceries, retailers, or restaurants. Based on their specific food safety requirements, Azzule customized the data destination sites for these buyers to help them to track their suppliers' food safety data, analyze trends, and manage their suppliers by expectation. Currently, we have been working with those major buyers listed here. I believe some of you or your customers have worked with them and know their food safety expectations pretty well. Usually, one of their key requirements is sharing a GFSI or a third-party food safety audit with them. How do you share your compliance documents with your customer? This is the pool question we asked you earlier, and we can see that some of you are already use Azzule platform. So, and some of you probably haven't heard about it. So hopefully in the following presentation, I will give you a very brief introduction, and you will know what does Azzule platform and what does PrimusGFS can do for you. So supply chain program software is an affordable and secure site that Azzule provides you to share audits and other documents to your customers. This is a software free for you to register. In the site, you have tools to connect your customers and suppliers. There are also tools for you to upload and store your growers' data. You are able to share the documents directly to your customers in a secure and traceable way. Since the PrimusGFS audit system is a part of the whole Azzule supply platform, all the PrimusGFS audits are automatically saved in the supply chain program. So if PrimusGFS clients or auditees register to open a supply chain program account, the audits should be saved and available for them to track and share with their customers without further ado. PrimusGFS certification bodies, auditees, and auditors use PrimusGFS audit system to complete the whole auditing process, from application submission to the certification decision making. So with the integration of the Azzule platform, those auditing phases can be tracked in the audit progress tracker that is developed in the Azzule supply chain program. So as soon as your audit application is approved and scheduled, the audit status will be updated in the tracker. After the auditor has visited your site and submitted the preliminary audit report, you can send this preliminary report to your customer for a quick review and approval if needed. Once the preliminary report has been shared with your customer, the corrective actions, final report, audit certificate, and even the audit extension will be automatically updated in your and your customers' accounts after you complete those phases. So you don't have to wait for about a month to share the audit results until the audit is certified. The seamless audit movement within the Azzule platform helps you to comply with your customers' requirements in a timely and transparent manner. We can see that Azzule supply chain program is not a data management program that contributes to data isolation. It is a network of connecting nearly 10,000 of growers, packers, shippers, importers, exporters, and buyers in the food industry. This is an affordable way to deliver quality, organized documents to your customers. This is a secure way to manage your food safety, sustainability, organic, and other assurance programs while meeting your customers' expectations, regulatory requirements such as FSVP, and other marketing efforts. So with the integration of this data entry systems, supply chain program, and the destination of buyer site, we hope that by using Azzule platforms, you will not only find an organized way to manage your own suppliers and information, but also an efficient way to share the required documents with your customer so that you will help to make your customer's life easier. The sharing process of PrimusGFS in the Azzule platform has strengthened your customers' confidence by guaranteeing the audit transparency. If you would like to know more about the whole Azzule platform or part of it, please feel free to contact us. Our contact information will be listed by the end of the webinar. So with that brief introduction of Azzule platform, I would like to share our plans on the development of PrimusGFS version 4. Currently, we are on PrimusGFS version 3.1. However, with the release of GFSI Benchmarking Guideline version 2020 in Seattle, February this year, we are now starting to development version 4 to be benchmarked to that new guideline. As Anna introduced earlier, PrimusGFS standard has been developed based on different inputs. Those inputs include food safety principles, stakeholders' concerns, GFSI guidelines, food safety regulations, and data analysis results from Azzule. In the version 4, we must meet the benchmarking standards set by GFSI. We will continually implement the FISMA regulations and update our products and service to serve the changing needs through constant feedback directly from the industry. The audit development relies heavily on the stakeholders' input. Our stakeholders include retailers, wholesalers, such as Walmart, Costco, food services companies, such as Cisco, Robinson Fresh, restaurants, such as Subway, certification bodies and auditors who perform the audits for AUDITEES, and growers, harvesting companies, packers, and processors who use this standard to verify their food safety practice, training centers who train and educate the food industry about PrimusGFS. While we expand the scope of our audit and regularly evolve to meet industry needs, we invite you, our audience here, to take part in reviewing proposed updates to check the audit question checklist, expectations, and other normative documents. Your feedback and ideas will be contributing to the audit development. So again, for more information, please feel free to contact us or visit our website to register as a stakeholder. So as soon as we receive your information, we will keep on sending you those updated documents for your review. Thank you again, Amy, Lauren, and Paul for hosting a webinar that allowed us to share what PrimusGFS has been working for the industry, what we are doing now to face with current new challenges, and what we will do for you in the future. And I want to thank you, all the attendees, for your time and attention during the webinar. Now I think I will have Amy run the discussion section. Thank you all.
Thank you again so much, Dodo. Yeah, we're going to go on to our last polling question for today, just really quickly. This one's a pretty easy one. We would just like to know what webinar topics you are all most interested in seeing from PJRFSI in the future. And this is a select as many answers as you'd like. So if there's more than one option on the screen that you have an interest in, please feel free to choose any or all of them. And while this is going on, Paul, I'm going to invite you to say a little bit about our upcoming webinars.
Okay, great. Thank you. And thank you so much to PrimusGFS. That was great. So just to, I'm not sure if you were going to show that slide or not, Amy, but we do have a couple of upcoming webinars that are planned. We have one on this Friday, actually, May 29th at 2 p.m. It is with the scheme owner, GFSI scheme owner SQF. We're going to be talking about root cause analysis specifically and going beyond the 5 whys. And we're also going to be talking about their latest update on allowing the remote audit solution and if that's a requirement. So they're going to be taking a look at various tools that you can use over and above the standard fishbone diagram to really kind of manage and do effective root cause analysis. Then on Thursday, I'm sorry, that says April 30th. That date is incorrect. It is June 24th. I apologize. I'll get that corrected. We have a meeting on managing supply chain, the risk associated with your suppliers. It's often been said, you know, a company's greatest risk is their suppliers. So this is going to be talking about everything from selecting your supplier, onboarding them, understanding the process, and what a good program looks like. So that will be a good one. And then we also just confirmed another webinar today with the GRMA, which is the Global Retailers Manufacturers Alliance. This is another very significant and big program that has been launched, and essentially it is GMP audits for all of your non-food vendors. So there's many standards, and I won't steal all the thunder from that, but if you want some further information on that, that will be a good one. And those standards will be a force to be reckoned with in the near future. So thank you very much, Amy, and back to you.
Great, thanks so much, Paul. And as Paul may have mentioned, the URL on the screen, I did see a question just come through regarding how to register for these webinars. You'll be able to find the registration links for all of these on the website at pjrfsi.com/webinars. All right, so here's some contact information for everyone who was on the webinar today. If you had any overly complicated or specific questions or anything that you may not want to ask publicly in the webinar format, please feel free to reach out to anyone who was on the call today with those questions that you wanted answered separately. But we're going to go ahead and open up the question tab and see what we have. All right, it looks like we've got a question from and I'm apologizing in advance if I mispronounce anyone's name, from Richa. They would like to know what is the usual duration of remote audits? So Lauren, maybe you could shed some light on that.
Sure. So if they're talking about a risk assessment that we're performing to extend the certificate, then that's typically only an hour or two long. But if they're talking about the desk audit, the remote desk audit prior to the on-site portion, you know, it would depend on their, it would be a portion of their entire audit duration. So we could split that up into the off-site desk module and then the on-site audit, and which would roughly equal out to their current audit duration. I think that could range from a few hours to a day, depending on their facility and what kind of documentation they have. We can get access to. If it's a fully remote audit, then you know that would be a non-GFSI audit, and typically they're the same duration as an on-site, but we may have to add additional time for technical connections, and if they're, you know, the connection is slower or things may be a little bit slower, but typically we see them as the same as the on-site.
All right, great. There's a question here for Lori, and I think this one would probably be best answered by Anna or Dr. Bao. Do you have any recommendation or guidance that can be shared regarding using digital checklists rather than paper, and what is or isn't accepted by auditors?
I'm not sure I'm getting the question correctly, but PrimusGFS have the checklist available both and in a manner that can be printed and used on site, and the auditors have also those same checklists available program on the platform, so they can fill up the answers reviewed during the inspection in that digital format, and they can receive that as a preliminary report in an electronic format in the platform. But I'm not sure that was the intent of the question.
Oh, and also, as Anna has introduced earlier, in the PrimusGFS system, we have that first-party audit tool. So that is a digital format, like the users can use to submit their self-assessment, and also attached like all the required documents like SOPs, and then corrective action logs, or other things for their auditor to review. So if they are using that first-party tool, as soon as they submit all the documents and that self-assessment, the auditors will be able to review that document. So I hope that answers. Yeah. If not, okay. Again, feel free to email me or Anna. We are here to help. Yes.
All right, Lori is confirming in the questions that is helpful, so thank you for clarifying. I have a question here for Paul from Sherry. Paul, you mentioned in your portion that there's a cannabis standard now from FSI. Could you expand on that a little bit more?
Yeah, sure, thank you. So on, I believe it was May 4th, correct me if I'm wrong, Lauren, but we were granted accreditation by ANAB for our cannabis standards. Lauren and her team had been working extremely hard over the last several years developing our GMP and GAP based cannabis schemes. So currently today we've been recognized as an accredited body for our cannabis standards for growers, manufacturers, and retailers. And they're focused for not only meeting the requirements of the GMP or GAP-based schemes, but also the state-by-state specific requirements that you have or that are being imposed on you. So yeah, we're very happy about that. We're the first in the world, and I imagine that we're going to have a lot of very interested people looking to have accredited schemes to protect their brand. So hopefully that answered the question, Amy.
Sure thing. There is a pretty lengthy question here from Lee Ann. It's a two-parter. It looks like, Lee Ann, I'm going to recommend that you send the first part in to Anna and Dr. Bao directly, just because it seems a little bit situational. But the second part, how would we go about scheduling the FSMS part remotely and also book the on-site part of the audit? Every year, it seems the auditor is reviewing documents for the majority of the day, and the on-site inspection portion is minimal.
Leanne, yes, this is a very, very good question. Thank you for asking. So I think that's also how we realized the problem, and also that's why we started to approve the off-site desk review process, as Anna presented earlier. So in this case, you will be able probably to submit the documents not only required in the FSMS module, but also in other modules, right? You will be able to submit those documents for the auditor to review before on-site audit. And the process, each CBs, they may have their like a little bit different rules on the detailed going, but that's the overview of that. And also, I think we will finalize the guidelines soon. We will publish it on the website again. We will publish everything to the public. So, Leanne, again, if you want to know more about that, feel free to let us know. But I hope this will answer your question.
All right, thanks, Dr. Bao. It looks like we've only got one more question left that's in the box. So if you do have any more of those, please drop that in right now so we can help you out. But this last question, I think Lauren would probably know the answer to this one from John. How would I know if Perry Johnson will be sending an auditor to do an on-site audit?
Absolutely. So we work with all of our clients to schedule an on-site audit. And so that works for both them and the auditor when it's an announced audit, so that we also send confirmation to the client of that information and a welcome letter or a pre-audit letter to them so that they're prepared when they're going to have that. We also allow changes to the audit date prior to 21 days in advance. So if it needs to be shifted as part of the changing environment with COVID-19 or with harvest, with production, then we are able to do that. And again, we have a dedicated scheduler that works with both you and the auditor to make sure that it works for everybody.
All right. Thank you guys so much for all the questions. It looks like there were no more questions that came in, so I'm going to leave the floor open for just a minute while I get any last parting words from any of our presenters before we wrap up for the day.
I just want to say on behalf of PJRFSI, I'd like to say thank you to Dr. Bao and Anna, and appreciate them for their time, and we certainly thank you to everybody that joined us on the call.
Yes, we thank you again also, Perry Johnson, for this opportunity for us to share our voices with the industry. For sure, I think I liked your webinar series a lot, and I also like your future webinars. Maybe I will sit in too. So for sure, we appreciate the time, and also I saw someone you're interested in the stakeholder registration. So please feel free to visit PrimusGFS.com webpage, and you will see stakeholder link is under the PrimusGFS tab. We really appreciate industry's feedback, and since we are a private holding like schemes, I think we are very flexible, and we like root deeply in America, and so we really appreciate if you guys can be our stakeholders and help us and let us know what's your concern. So I think that's it from me. Thank you.
Yes, thank you. We love to be here, and thank you for having us and listening to this webinar. Thank you, everybody, for taking the time. We're happy to help with any questions, so feel free to send us any you might have.
Yes.
All right. Thank you so much to both of our guests from PrimusGFS today. It was great to have you on the call, and thank you everyone who submitted some questions. I do hope this was informational and helpful to everyone. As my fellows have already said, if you have questions, comments, concerns, anything like that, please send them our way. We'd love to hear your feedback. And I'm going to go ahead and wrap things up for the day. I hope everyone is staying safe and healthy out there, and have a great day.